Hello, and welcome back to The Give and Go. I am your co-host, Reynoso, here with my boy.
Soltero, what's up, guys?
Bro, where are we? Where am I right now, bro?
Honestly, I don't know.
Where am
I'm going to
I?
be completely honest. I have no idea where I am right now.
We are in our new studio. We have finally relocated. My God, what a stressful time it's been, but an exciting one. Because we've been remodeling, we've been fixing things up. This is not the final iteration of this studio, folks. We look like a Nuck Boys podcast right now. We are just setting things up, working on it. It'll look much better in a few weeks, maybe even in a few shoots. But right now, it's janky and we're embracing it.
Yeah, no, we're fully embracing it. But I'll be the first to say, I'm not a big fan of change.
Yep.
I'm going to miss the old studio. I want to give it its flowers, man. That old place was nice. I was a big fan of it, but hey, we move. That's the thing. We move. We are here, and we're here to talk football because that's what we do.
We move, but right now we're trotting, man. We're trotting right now. Today we're going to talk about Germany.
Deutschland.
Germany. We're going to talk about this German side who is one of the most historic teams in the World Cup. I repeat, one of the most historic teams in the World Cup. 20th appearance in the World Cup. That's 20 out of 22 total World Cups that have been held. Germany are 4-time champions. They are absolute giants in this tournament. Actually, the only couple of times that they haven't made quarterfinals or more was in 1938 when they went out in the first round, 1978 when they went out in the second group stage. But even back then, I don't know if that was the equivalent of the quarterfinals. It might have been. I'm not sure. And then most recently, in 2018, they went out in the group stage.
Yeah.
Outside of that, bro, they've made quarterfinals or further. Let me really emphasize this point, bro.
That's insane.
Quarterfinals or further in every other single World Cup appearance for this German side.
Yep.
That is unimaginable, man. Yeah. Unimaginable. This is coming from a Mexican fan who wakes up every day dreaming of that fifth game.
Yeah.
They wake up dreaming of that fifth World Cup, bro.
Yeah.
It's a different standard.
So...
Germany excels in this tournament, and they did it once again in the build-up to Qatar 2022, landing themselves first place in Group J in UEFA qualification. This was a group that contained North Macedonia in it, so it was pretty manageable for them.
Yeah.
And manage they did because they went on and won 9 games and only lost 1 game with 36 goals for and only 4 goals against.
Jeez, yeah.
Ridiculous. 27 points in total. They land themselves in Group E with Spain, Costa Rica, and Japan. So another group that they can probably manage themselves in, but regardless will be a test for them. And so that's Germany, man. That's the journey they've gone on to get to Qatar 2022, and they're eyeing it as a potential opportunity to get that 5th World Cup championship. I mean, I'm so interested to talk about this team because a lot of people have labeled them as dark horses, but others are labeling them as title contenders. It's about finding that balance of where do they land in this World Cup scope amongst other teams.
Dude, brother.
What's wrong, man?
I actually don't even know where to start with this team, man. There's so many points we could talk about. I think at the very least, I'll say this. When I look at the current Germany team right now, I see a really solid team. They actually kind of remind me of Spain in 2018. They actually have very similar recent narratives. Spain getting knocked out in the group stage in 2014. Spain went to the round of 16 and lost to a really feisty Russia side, but it went to the very death. And then they were able to build on that in the subsequent Euros that followed. And for Germany, similar thing, getting knocked out in the 2018 World Cup group stage. But what's a little bit different is that they had a pretty poor Euros, to be honest. They did make it to the round of 16, but then did get knocked out. But kind of as you prefaced, they've been on an insane run as far as World Cup qualification was concerned with the introduction of Hansi Flick.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and he's just like Father Germany, basically. He's just come in and he's just set this team straight.
Should we talk about Joachim Low just leaving?
And that's what ultimately what I want to get to is I want to start in 2018 because prior to that tournament, bro, Germany was decorated. And I had only seen them win, man. Yeah. I had never seen a German team struggle realistically. And when Germany would lose, it'd be against the best of the best, deep into a tournament, semifinals, nothing less. prior to 2018,
God
bro,
damn, man.
insane,
You're right,
it's
though, man.
stupid.
Surgical, technical,
God.
fucking giants of this tournament, man.
Giants, man. I think prior to 2018, they had made 3 straight semifinal World Cup appearances in a row. Isn't that crazy, man?
It's insane.
And one of them they obviously did win, which was in 2014. So deep run after deep run eventually lifted the trophy in the midst of those runs. And in 2018, I wasn't sure what to expect. All I expected was greatness, right? I analyzed that German team the same way I had analyzed them every single year prior to 2018, in the sense that, like, I don't care who's on this pitch, they're going to be better than their opponents. And what we saw in 2018 was jarring, man. It was jarring for me because in every single group stage game, they couldn't figure it out. They could not figure it out. Credit to the other teams. They played good football, man. They played against a really, really talented and driven Mexican side. They played against a very technical, in-sync Swedish side. And then that last game against South Korea, man, was bizarre. Because South Korea just did Germany in. Germany had no response, and towards the last 10, 15 minutes of that game, Germany looked desperate. And that is something that I had never seen in my entire life. A desperate Germany. And they still couldn't figure it out. Ultimately losing that game. And at the end of it, I was like, what the fuck did I just witness, man? It was crazy.
Yeah.
You even take out World Cups, they had the same deep runs in the Euros, man.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop glory for Germany. And for them to go out the way they did in 2018, I was like, oh my God. Like, okay, football is football. It's fair at the end of the day. Things truly can be cyclical. And for me, 2018 Germany was the beginning of a German lull. If anybody knows my Bundesliga takes, I think this actually trickles down to club level, man.
Okay.
I really do.
Okay.
I think we're seeing a lull in German football in general. And I think it crept going into 2018, and maybe it peaked, and is peaking right now, possibly. But what I will give the German Federation credit for is they did let go of Jogi Löw. A guy who had given them fucking everything since 2008. One of them being a World Cup trophy, which is the highest accolade that any national team could ever hope for. And for them to finally let him go, I was like, wow, truly an end of an era. Truly.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about dynasties, Jogi Löw's Germany is probably one of the greatest international dynasties of all time. Even though they only got 1 World Cup, I mean, just 1 is enough, man.
Yeah.
It's more than enough. And so when they finally made that decision, I was like, okay, it's time for a change. And that's kind of what's fucked up about football is no matter how good of a coach you are, if you stay too long, you ultimately will meet an eventual downfall, a demise. Yeah. And unfortunately, and shockingly, in my opinion, we saw the demise of Jogi Löw, man. The team just wasn't working anymore. His style wasn't working. Modern football had adapted, and things change. But who do they get in his place? Immediate success coach with Bayern Munich, Hansi Flick, man. And he is the perfect substitute for the hole that Jogi Löw left, man. I mean, because he's come into this team and he set out immediate tactics. Something that he did at Bayern Munich, because when he went into Bayern Munich, there's a little bit of trouble. There's a little bit of chaos as far as like the coaching job was concerned, because Bayern Munich was going through this weird phase and they needed a coach who could set them straight. And not only did he do that, but he won them a fucking Champions League, man. And after that happened, it was almost apparent that Hansi Flick was going to take the Germany job. And there's not a better translation. There's not a better transition from going from club football to international football than the transition that Hansi Flick made, man.
Dude, Hansi
it's been incredible.
He had the type of career I hope to have on manager mode on FIFA, man. Like,
man.
Like, literally, first year you win the Champions League, but you do it in style, man.
Bro.
That team for Bayern Munich was so dominant, surgical, and they were amazing in every single knockout game. And they proved that they were the best team, even going toe-to-toe against a PSG side that was really talented and ultimately winning. That Bayern team was one of the best Bayern teams I've ever seen. Yeah. And that was in his first year.
Yes.
I was like, how did he get these guys to believe in his plan so quick? But he did, man. And so for me, that was the ultimate audition for the German national team. Jogi Löw moves on from his time at Germany, and it's just clear. Like you said, he's the obvious successor to that position. And success he did, man, because he guided his team to an incredible qualification cycle, winning them so many games, playing really good football, really good offensive football, but also showcasing their defense as well, and kind of finding ways to mold the players that he even coached at Bayern Munich, finding ways to combine all these talents to create a really dangerous squad going into the World Cup. So Hansi Flick has absolutely, so far, has proven to be the perfect replacement for Jogi Löw.
Hansi Flick has been able to set up this German team to succeed, man, after having a horrible 2018 and a really, and in my opinion, an equally bad Euros as well. He's been able to immediately change this team and set them up for a potential deep run into this year's World Cup. Really quick transition for Germany, man, but they have a really good squad. But I will say, just in general, I think there's still some things to figure out. I do think so.
So let's look into the squad, because Hansi Flick has some toys at hand, man, that he can just play with and figure out. He likes to go in that 4-2-3-1 formation when it comes to this German team. And so we're going to start at the back. You look at the goalkeeping situation, you have one of the most secure options in world football, and Manuel Neuer. If you'd like, if you want to go a little younger, you got also a top 10, top 15 goalkeeper in the world, and Ter Stegen, who plays for Barcelona.
Yeah.
So, in my view, that's an incredible goalkeeping situation right off the back. Ultimately, though, I think that this is the closest the conversation has come to either one or the other starting. Most of the time, it's been very clear that Neuer is starting for this team, and Ter Stegen's had to kind of sit back and just play second fiddle. But I think now the conversation is a little tighter than usual because of Neuer going up there in age. But you just, this is a guy that won you the World Cup. This is the guy that's been at the World Cup every single time for the past 4 iterations. Yeah. In my opinion, I think it's still Manuel Neuer's spot to lose, and he's keeping it going into this World Cup.
Yeah, I completely agree. Neuer is essentially like German royalty at this point. You just can't deny him. No matter the form, no matter the age, if he's playing professional football in Europe, Neuer is going to be starting for your German national team, man. Yeah. And if he's healthy, regardless of how good Ter Stegen is doing, it just has to be Neuer. You cannot deny him.
But imagine that career as Ter Stegen, man.
Bro.
Imagine that, dude.
It's just bad luck.
Every Euros, every World Cup, he just always isn't enough. And it even seems like, even if he gets into a crazy stride, is an incredible form, I still think they pick Neuer, man.
Won't matter.
He's just too skillful. He's just better. In my opinion, Neuer has reached that Buffon level of status. He is Germany. And so he's going to get that start. Might even be captaining the team, honestly.
Yeah, kind of, in a way, kind of reminds me of Victor Valdés and Iker Casillas. No matter how good Valdés was with Barcelona, since they were basically the same age, it was always going to be Casillas because he was the guy between the sticks for Spain. Yeah. And no matter what, Casillas was going to play for Spain. So Valdés always had to play second fiddle regardless of form. And I see basically the same thing for Ter Stegen and Neuer.
God, man.
I know.
That's just crazy. That's just crazy.
Crazy.
Looking at the back line now, I actually want to get your thoughts on this because one of the things that stood out to me the most about Germany was their fullback situation. Yeah. People talk so much about Brazil's fullback situation and maybe it not being enough, maybe as not high in quality compared to other European sides. But then you have this really strong European team in Germany having a really interesting fullback situation. I want to start there, actually, before we go into the center backs.
Sure.
So on the left side, Hansi Flick has found himself in adoration of Rom, who is a left back that plays in the Bundesliga right now. Last season, he had a banger of a season, accumulating, I think, 11 assists and 3 goals. So he definitely earned the starting nod there, but it's been surprising because Germany, like Brazil, has had such notable names in that fullback position, like Philipp Lahm, for example, being such a big name. Now we got a couple guys that aren't really on the radar right now in mainstream football, but are playing really good roles for this team. Rom being one of them because he's kind of quiet, man. He's kind of underrated and low-key, but he's starting every single game for Hansi, man.
For me, when it comes to these fullback positions, this is kind of what I'm talking about as far as Hansi Flick has to figure out something here. And his apparent solution does seem to be play Raum in that left fullback position. My only thing with playing Raum there is there's just zero experience. He literally just popped off last season. I think he got that move to RB Leipzig this season. When I see a good German team, there's usually some sort of experience behind these players. And that's kind of what I was getting at when I talked about how I see this German team as like a 2018 Spain, in the sense that like a lot of the players that don't have the experience have zero experience, bro. And for as good as Raum is playing in the Bundesliga, does he have enough to take on the pressure of being the fullback for Germany at a World Cup? That's my question for Raum. He very well could do it because he does have the talent. But when it comes to these 3 group stage games and then eventually the biggest games of his career in the knockout stage, is Raum the solution? And I wonder. I know that Flick has gone with other options too, maybe in rotation. He's also dropped Jonas Hoffmann into that left fullback position as well, as he can play that kind of wingback, and he does it for Gladbach as well. So I do wonder, is Raum the actual solution? I don't know if I'm fully convinced.
For now, it might be enough for them to sky past that group stage that they're put into. I think when they're matched up against bigger teams, that's where we'll get exposed.
Yeah,
that's where we'll find out the answer. And given that they did dominate their qualification group, I do want to give them that credit for especially to Raum, for being able to start in that position and be consistent for Hansi Flick throughout this whole time. On the other side, though, like you said, you mentioned some names that have been kind of rotated out in the fullback position. Hendricks has been mentioned as well as a fullback. Klosterman has gotten minutes at the right back position. But ultimately, I think Hansi Flick is going to go with the West Ham product, Timo Kehrer. And that's where I think it's a little bit the most underwhelming. That's the spot where I'm a little bit more shaky. Every time I watch him, I'm not ultimately convinced. And I know that he's a PSG product. When I saw that he was the ultimate go-to option for Hansi Flick, I'm left just feeling a little underwhelmed and just saying, is there not anything more there? Yeah. Because in every other position, there's depth and there's quality starting. But with this one, it's the one spot where I'm just like, damn.
Yeah.
That's a bit underwhelming.
When Kehrer was at PSG, every single time he played, I was like, PSG got to get a better fullback. Like, just straight up. I've never been convinced by Kehrer just from a quality standpoint. He is a good footballer, and he can play at a high level. But when you're talking about winning titles, I don't know if Kehrer is going to be it as your starting fullback, man. I really don't think so. When you look at the options that Hansi Flick has in replacement of Kehrer, you don't have anything else, man. I mean, you mentioned the name Klosterman. Klosterman's been in the German setup for years now, and he's never been able to find himself in a starting position. There's a reason why. He's just simply not that good. He's a solid fullback on his day. When you're going to play against the most elite opponents in, for example, a World Cup, Klosterman's not going to be your guy, man. I think the reason Flick's going with Kehrer is maybe he's a little bit more mobile. Again, he's played with bigger names like at PSG. Maybe he can do the same thing for Germany, playing with these big names that he has around him. I think that's why Hansi Flick ultimately goes with him, because he is technical on the ball. I just question his decision-making, man. I question his output. I don't think he's that good at penetrating, and his defense isn't that great either when we're talking about elite status, right? I think Kehrer is pretty much the only option Flick has, man, and that's why he goes with him.
To highlight the point, I just think that the fullbacks and in this team is a little concerning. If we're going to use that argument for Brazil, we got to use it for Germany too. Like, we can't be biased here. But it's similar to Brazil, where there is no question is in the center back position, and we can breeze through this one here. Rudiger and Schul are starting, man. They are starting, and they are quality center backs, both of them. Rudiger specifically, I love seeing him play. The type of player that you wish played for your own team, man. Your favorite squad, he'd be perfect for them because his ability to inject the rest of the team with that energy, with that ambition. He's a dog. He's an animal. This dude could have played midfielder if he wanted to, man. His ability to make, honestly, to have a little bit of a dribbling ability to get past some guys, to be a force of nature when it comes to heading the ball from a corner, from a set piece, but then his ball playing ability, defending. He's so good in every aspect of the game. There's a reason why he got bought out from Chelsea to go to Real Madrid and play for one of the most historic clubs in world football. It's Rudiger, baby. This is Rudiger's world, and we're just living in it, man. And he's going to be starting at center back for this German team, and he's paired along a really quality center back in Schul, who was at Bayern Munich and has now now made the move to Dortmund and has found his place in his home there too. So I love both of these options for Germany. If you're German, you're feeling secure having these two guys at back defending that goal with you alongside Neuer.
Absolutely. If you're German, you cannot even remotely complain about your center back options. Both Niklas Schüle and Antonio Rüdiger are quality defenders, man. Truly. Their IQ is incredibly high and they're very reliable, man. So from a center back standpoint, man, this German team they have two guys that can absolutely rely on, and I wouldn't be worried one bit. It does get interesting, though, when you do mention the fullbacks, though, because there is going to be a point when Schüle has to cover for Kara on that right side. There is going to be that point. They're going to get stretched, and maybe that's where we see Germany lack a little bit. I do think this German side has weaknesses in this defense. It's not because of the center backs, but I do think it's actually because of the defensive miscapabilities of these fullbacks, man. I don't question Rüdiger or Schule's talent, but I do think they will get stretched solely because of the weakness that are out wide, man. And so that's where it's going to get really interesting, is because on the day, if every single defender for this German team is playing very well, they'll be unstoppable at the back. Unstoppable. And you include Neuer in between the sticks, then you have an incredible elite defense. But it is interesting, though, because I do see true weakness in these fullbacks for Germany. Yeah. And I do think the center backs are going to get stretched because of that.
Moving on up to the defensive mid position, I actually get kind of excited looking at these two pivots right here, man.
Oh, I love these.
Man,
I love this.
I love this one, man. Yeah. More than Portugal's, I really like these two defensive pivots, but more so because there's a discussion here of who potentially starts. It's very similar to Portugal's situation where Ruben Neves is assured of starting. I think that's Joshua Kimmich in this situation.
Absolutely.
Kimmich is set to have that spot now. He's been working his way through this German system for years now, playing as a youngster at Bayern Munich, solidifying his spot there, and honestly impressing me because there were times where I doubted Kimmich, man. Like throughout the past 5-7 years, I've watched him play and I'd hate him, man. I'd hate him. But every single time he would find a way to prove me wrong. He'd find a way back on that starting lineup sheet for freaking Bayern Munich. And he's found himself playing now as a midfielder when really at the beginning of his career, he was more of a fullback. And he's excelled, man. He's excelled. One of the best defensive midfielders in the game now. He's in his prime. For me, it's Kimmich that starts for sure. He's the coach's favorite, teacher's pet type of vibes. For me, the most interesting discussion point here is who starts alongside him. Is it going to be his teammate, his partner, his friend at Bayern Munich, Leon Goretzka? Or will it be Man City, title winner, fucking force of nature, Gundogan?
Once again, another point of contention that Flick is going to have to figure out. And if he gets it wrong, I think he actually gets it wrong here. The thing is, I don't know the answer. But what I will say is, I think right now, if I was Flick, I'm going Gundogan. Simply because of the form that he's in. I am, absolutely. Simply because of the form that he's in. How amazing he was last year, man. My goodness, dude. Gundogan's involvement on both ends of the pitch is unparalleled, bro. I don't know if there's a better box-to-box midfielder from that perspective in Europe. Gundogan's incredible. On his best day, he might be the best central midfielder. That's the thing. Maybe he's a little inconsistent at doing so, but you take that risk. You start him alongside reliable Kimmich, man. In my opinion, I think that is the choice to go with. But the thing is, if you choose Goretzka, you get something a little bit different. Maybe you get a little bit more defensive-minded, but it wouldn't be a bad decision because Kimmich has the ability to spread balls. He has the ability to distribute. My only issue with picking a player like Goretzka right now is Goretzka's had a little bit of an injury problem. Just a little one, right? He's been slightly injured as of recently. And could that come into play for the World Cup? Maybe, right? If Gundogan's playing a lot more and he's playing at very high pace in the Premier League, whereas Goretzka's missing once every couple weeks, then maybe I'm going to easily go with Gundogan, absolutely. But even depending on who you go with, you will get a slightly different flavor in that midfield.
I do think so.
But again, I do think Gundogan's probably the better option right now. But I do want to highlight Kimmich just for a little bit longer, man. I really do want to, because Joshua Kimmich's effect for this German team is twofold. He filled the hole that Philipp Lahm left from a leadership standpoint, man. When you look at who's guiding this midfield, who's commanding the players around him, who is being the general out there, it's Joshua Kimmich, man. You've really seen him come into this role at Bayern, man. And that's what I've been really impressed with. His communication, his ability to just kind of be demanding in that midfield, and especially at a young age. I've been so impressed with Kimmich, man. From that perspective,
He's so young, bro.
He's so
Getting
young.
Big minutes in Champions League matches, man.
Exactly. And he's able to do it kind of with like a power behind him. You know, he's really confident in himself, and it shows on the pitch. So he's filled that role that kind of Philipp Lahm left. And not only that, he is the apparent heir to the technical ability that Bastian Schweinsteiger left.
Oh, that's where you're going.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay.
Because Schweinsteiger was the distributor for this German team. He was the guy that could defend when you needed him to, but when he was on the ball, Schweinsteiger was class. Kimmich is the exact same thing.
I miss him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do miss him.
Yeah, when you need Kimmich to track back, get the ball, and then play to his wingers, play to his strikers, Kimmich's your go-to guy, and he's one of the best in the business to do that, man. And so Kimmich has filled in 2 roles all at once. It's Joshua Kimmich, man, and he's an incredible player, and he's so necessary and needed for this German midfield.
You don't see him as a potential heir to Toni Kroos as well, who retired from the national team?
In my opinion, I feel like Kroos is a little untouchable.
Oh,
Yeah. I feel like Kroos is Kroos.
Okay.
And he can't be replaced. I don't even think I could say that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like Schweinsteiger's quality is a little bit less than Kroos, right? So that's why I was able to say that. But I feel like Kroos is Kroos, and I don't think there'll ever be a player like Tony.
Yeah, you could say the same for Miroslav Klose as well.
Yeah. There'll never be a German striker like Miroslav Klose.
Nah, okay.
Never.
I agree with you there. Dude, that Goretzka and Kimmich partnership is literally what they experience week in, week out in Bayern right now. Mm-hmm. And so there's that element of just, well, Hansi Flick preferred that at the end of the day. Part of me is thinking Goretzka and Kimmich, that youthful prime partnership could be better, but the experience of Goretzka, his game-winning ability might be enough to get in that starting nine. And I do think that ultimately that's what Hansi Flick's going to go with. I do.
My only question, and I actually do agree. I agree. But my only thing, and I do take this into account, is Goretzka's recent injuries. He's had a couple knocks, man, and I think he's out this week too. So it's just like, will he be fully fit, and will that come into play whether Flick starts him or maybe he has a bench appearance? I don't know. But right now, I'm going to go with Gundogan, who's just in flying form right now.
You move on up, and we have an incredible German attacking offensive line with a lot of options at hand. But something that you mentioned earlier, I think, is a true theme of this German offense, which is that there's a lot of quality, but not a lot of experience. Not a lot of players that have been on the biggest stage, such as the World Cup. Yep. There is one player, though, that's almost like a grandfather to all these players, man. He's almost like a grandpa. Yeah. He's just gathering guys together. They're sitting around a campfire, and he's just telling them these stories, these legends of the things he did when he was their age.
The things he's seen.
Yeah, you'll never believe the things I did to Portugal back in 2014. You know, shit like that.
Y'all ever been to Brazil?
His name is Thomas Muller. This man is an absolute legend. And on the same theme of Kroos, of Miroslav Klose, there will never be an heir. There will never be a replacement to Thomas Muller.
No.
One of the most diligent players I've ever seen play the game of football. He's calculated. He knows exactly what to do. He looks at the footage. He studies you. He knows your weakness. He knows your weak points, and he maximizes them. He exposes them, and he makes you look like an absolute fraud while smiling and looking like he could be a homeless man the rest of the day. It's crazy the way this guy carries himself on the field. He's lanky. He's unorthodox, but he's absolute world class. That is Thomas Muller for you. That is just a sneak peek into who this man is and who will be guiding this German offense in that 10 position. Because for me, despite the incredible quality of a guy like Jamal Musiala, I think for me, it's Thomas Muller, baby, because he's shown that he still hasn't slowed down whatsoever. He has the experience to outweigh anything else that any of these young guys can offer. I think Flick is going to go with as much experience as he can get in this World Cup. And when you want experience, man, it's Muller.
Muller is the veteran of this team, 100% if you don't include Neuer at the back. As far as outfield players are concerned, it's 100% Thomas Muller. Just to put a little bit more adjectives on his name, man, one of the craftiest players of this generation. When he's on the pitch, out of the 22 players out there, there's a good shout that Thomas Muller might be the smartest one out there.
Damn,
man. 100%.
Yeah.
The way that Muller plays is unlike any other player, but it's not even the way that he plays, but it's his output, man. His ability to assist, his ability to score, his ability to, as you said, expose defenses. Muller knows how to do it, man. And so he's going to absolutely give you that veteran presence. But what I do see in this kind of pocket position as a secondary striker right underneath the 9 and in between the wingers, as I see a partnership building between Muller and Musiala. Because you're right, Flick is flirting with the idea of maybe starting Musiala, right? Because he's rotated them in and out in that same position. They never start together.
Oh, no.
They never do. And it makes sense because if Flick wants to stay balanced, then if he's going to play Musiala, you can't have a free-flowing Muller as well. Because Musiala is going to make so many deep runs, you're going to be so exposed in the middle. You can't do that. So you can only play one or the other. But the thing is, I think this is a really healthy partnership because, kind of as you said, Muller can play teacher here. And to the student of 19-year-old teenage Jamal Musiala. And it's perfect, man. This is a perfect tandem that you want. Whether you start with Muller and Musiala comes off the bench, Muller gives him a little bit of points here. Maybe at halftime he's like, hey, look, you come off the bench here, you attack this point, and you will score. You know Musiala's going to be listening because they also play at the same team club level, man. Yeah. There's already a partnership building week in, week out for this team in this singular position, man.
Cheat code.
And the thing is, Flick can switch it. He can start Musiala off the bat and then bring on the experience of Muller at halftime. It's incredible what he has in this position. It's only quality. And really, regardless of who Flick goes with, I think he's going to get something good out of either option.
What a credit to Musiala to even be in this. To even be in this conversation, bro. Yeah. The fact we're even talking about a 19-year-old kid. And when I was 19, bro, I was doing YouTube videos, bro. This was not what I was up to. This guy's contending for a World Cup starting position against one of the most high-scoring players that the tournament has ever seen. Musiala has been incredible this whole season, and so I really want to shine a light on him because my goodness, what a talent he is. Absolutely impressed me when I've seen him play in those big Champions League matchups, when he has gotten the start at Bayern Munich. And it's such a cheat code that Hansi Flick is able to. He can look at Bayern and get so many answers when it comes to chemistry, when it comes to play style and ultimate fit. And this is one of the best prime examples of that.
Absolutely. I actually want to get in on this Musiala praise, man, because he's so good. He's 19 and he's going to continue to be a teenager for the rest of this year. So he's going to be 19 at this World Cup, and he could play a very prominent role in this German team, man. But it's so impressive because for me, he has surpassed the other teenage prodigies of Europe right now. And I'm talking about players like Jude Bellingham. I'm talking about players like Pedri, Gavi. For me, the shining teenage midfielder right now in Europe is Jamal Musiala, man. I've said it before. He's deceptively quick, faster with the ball than without. But what really gets me about Musiala, man, is his offensive involvement, man. He's so good. From a midfield position, he is incredibly effective. Whether it's off the pass, penetrating off the dribble, he can assist, but he's also a pretty good finisher. And as a midfielder, you're never asked to finish. Realistically, you're never asked to finish. But Musiala can, man. He's got a boot. He's got a hell of a boot. And just to have that option, it's incredible for Germany from that pocket attacking midfield position.
That is some high praise right there.
Yeah.
I don't think I have Musiala that high. I'm more of a Jude kind of guy.
One thing, though, is that they do play slightly different roles.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is true. It isn't one-on-one there.
True.
It isn't one-on-one there. It isn't. But I think Pedri could also be in that conversation. I think those are the top three there.
Musiala's better than Pedri.
Throw in Gavi in there if you'd like.
Musiala's better than Gavi.
So
100%.
No, I don't know. I think it's a little bit closer. It's a little bit closer. Maybe it's 60-40.
Nah,
maybe it's 60-40.
Brother. Come on.
Hey, funny thing is, it's Jude all day, though. That's the thing. Even we can talk about these little kids. It's Jude all day, bro. 4 straight Champions League scoring appearances, scoring against Man City, getting these amazing goals and doing the same shit that you mentioned about Musiala at a better level. Jude Bellingham is my guy, but I don't want to get into that because we're not doing England right now. So let's do Musiala praise. All right. But I just don't want to get carried away because I know our viewers right now are screaming at the fucking TV saying, "How could you say such a thing?"
I'm not shitting on Jude, by the way.
Oh, I know. But the praise of Musiala, I don't think that's actually that common, honestly. Like most people, if people talked about him the same way Pedri did, then that'd be amazing. But let's look outside, man. Let's look to the sides to see what are the winger options for Germany. Some more options here at hand. Let's go to the right, and let's look at a man that is a part-time chef, man. Because he's constantly cooking up some opportunities and some good.
Always cooking.
And he's killing these other teams. And that man's name is none other than Serge Gnabry. Finding himself at Bayern Munich. Was a Premier League player at one point. Switched over to Bundesliga. and he hit his stride like no other, man.
off.
What a purchase. What a signing for Bayern. Earning himself that national team starting position. This dude is pure danger. Pure danger.
Yeah.
Even just this past week when Bayern played against Barcelona, his assist to Sadio Mane, he is making some incredible passes. His game is elevating, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm actually really surprised because for a while, I thought of Gnabry as just solely a finisher, a guy that could just put in the final moves that you could get that ultimate goal. But now he's evolved his game to become so much more than that, man. He is such a provider, such a dangerous threat, even when he's just on the ball with his dribbling and his ability to get past the guy. He's very smart as well, man. I feel like that's a Bayern Munich trait, man.
Yeah,
they do something over
smart,
there
man.
where they focus in on your IQ as a player. Serge Gnabry knows how to surgically dismantle a defense, and it's an incredible thing to see.
When I do think about Gnabry's evolution as a player, I think he's gone from more pure penetration to true creator, man. Out on that wing position, you'll see him more often than not try to go for that final ball, try to go for that whipping cross to find whether it's Muller or used to be Lewandowski or now Mane. That's what I think Gnabry really goes for now. Yes, he still has the technical ability on the ball to dribble past a player, but I think he actually values feeding and creating more than he does scoring specifically. And that's actually a really good point because I didn't really think about that till you were talking about it right now. But I think that's why Gnabry's final form is feeding, man. But I think it's going to really help this German squad because you don't just want penetrators.
Yeah.
And I think you get that on the opposite side where there's only going to be one player starting. It's going to be Leroy Sané.
Yeah, dude. And this is one of my favorite players in world football because, dude, I saw him completely take over a Liverpool-Man City matchup at the height of those games when it was super technical. It was super tight. Leroy Sané found ways to put the ball in the back of the net. Just a killer, man. He's a killer. Sané was born to be a killer. He was born with a gun. This kid was a menace to society.
Yeah.
And you've seen him be tinkered with a little bit at these clubs. Man City ultimately gave him off, and Bayern Munich bought him in. And he's found himself just a complete home there, finding ways to feed Sadio Mane now. But not just that, bro. He's having an incredible season, both on the pitch but also in numbers. But what concerns me is that just this past week, he picked up an injury, man.
Picked up how long?
Mid-November.
But-
Mid-November. So it's going to be tight. It's another one of those tight ones. And we're seeing that a lot, man. A lot of that. It's going to be really, really tight. And I'm a little concerned. But if he's healthy, bro, it has to be Sané. With how he's been playing at Bayern and also the fact that these three guys that we're predicting are going to be starting all play on the same team. That's just even more reason to start this guy.
A true penetrator, a man with incredible dribbling class. You already put it so perfectly. He can take over games from a wing position, and that's so rare nowadays. It really is for a player to dominate out wide and basically be able to do whatever he wants to with his defender, man. It's impressive and it's unparalleled. Sané is that guy, and if he is healthy, which I'm praying, man, if he is healthy, he can be a very deadly weapon for this German side out on that left wing.
Are there any other German wingers?
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you brought this up because in a similar vein to how we think the fullback position is a little thin, I think it's thin from just purely a technical and skill standpoint. When you go up and go to the wing position for this German team, I don't think it's thin from quality, but it's thin from depth. In my opinion, there is really no depth out wide for this German team. If Sané doesn't play, I don't know who you realistically go with. You can go with a couple of Gladbach players, maybe find a position for some Leipzig or Freiburg players who are playing well, but they're just nowhere near the quality of Sané or on the other side, Gnabry, man. It's just not the same. So, sure, you have good Bundesliga quality, but for me, it just doesn't even mark up the same as a Sané and Gnabry pair.
They have their starting 11, and it's incredible. Yeah. But 2-3 injuries happen, and this team is
no options.
They're fighting against Japan for their lives, bro. It gets tight all of a sudden.
Yes.
And then finally, we look up top to the striker position, the man in charge was banging in the goals ultimately for this German team.
I don't think they really have a definitive striker that they can absolutely rely on to score. Like Bayern had Lewandowski back in the day. Germany don't have one. They don't have a go-to guy that they knock in a ball into the box and like, oh, he's going to get it.
Yep.
They don't have that in my honest opinion. When I look at the options, they're both skillful. I think there's two guys who are in genuine contention of starting, and Flick has rotated these two guys in and out over these past year and a half, and I'm talking about Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. Two completely different forwards, though, right? You have a technical kind of false nine effect with if you start a guy like Kai Havertz. The thing is, Havertz absolutely is comfortable playing in that front position. He's a forward for Chelsea, and he can play central, but he also can roam out wide and attack. He can penetrate, and he's incredibly skillful. I'm not knocking Havertz's skill because I think from a technical perspective, Havertz is one of the most gifted players in Europe, absolutely. But from output, from when you cross the ball to him and you want Havertz to volley it, you want him to get big and get a header, you want him to trap it down and score. I don't know if Havertz is your guy, man. I really don't think so.
He's not. In my opinion, he's not, man.
He's not. He can link up, he can pass, he can build, he can score. But the way that Germany might need him to, I'm going to say ultimately no. And when I look at who they have in replacement of Havertz, Timo Werner, it gets weird. It gets really weird with Timo, man, because his resume at club level has been bizarre. I mean, obviously that whole Chelsea experiment just did not work out, but he was scoring goals left and right prior when he was at RB Leipzig. Now he's back at Leipzig. Is he doing the same thing? Kind of. But even then, it gets weird for Werner because he has proven at the highest level he cannot score goals. Whether it's with this German national team, whether it's with Leipzig in the Champions League, whether it's with Chelsea in the Premier League, Werner has proven he is not your go-to number 9. He has a lot of great attributes: speed, physicality. He's good off the ball. He makes really good runs, and his touch is pretty good too. But his finishing at the highest level, which is what you're going to need at this World Cup, for me, it's suspect, bro. It is highly suspect. And what's interesting, though, is that when you look at him in these lower level games, Werner scores all day, bro. He's actually has a really good goal scoring rate for Germany in general. But man, when I don't think I've ever seen Werner show up in a big game. I'm gonna be completely honest.
Dude, honestly, man.
And that's just so disappointing and suspect. So for Flick, he has to make a decision because Werner, he easily could start Werner, and I actually wouldn't be surprised because maybe he does link up better with maybe like a Muller who can feed him, or maybe he links up better with Gnabry who can try to bring in whipping crosses, right? But I could easily see Flick going with a more technical player in Havertz who could maybe try to build, and maybe Sané roams centrally more. Maybe he relies on Gnabry to link up and come central too, and maybe he's puts Musiala off the bench and Havertz and Musiala have some sort of linkage, right? Flick has many decisions to make, and for me, a big one is who is he going to start at this number 9 position?
It exposes the responsibility that the wingers are going to have in this tournament.
Ooh.
It is huge, bro. Huge. Not just with the idea of what if one of them gets injured, but also the idea of like, if the striker is unable to score, Sané and Gnabry are going to be the offensive impetus for this national team. And that's a lot to put on two guys. You're talking about, them having to link up and feed Werner and Havertz. But with both those guys, man, the one thing that stood out with me, especially with both of them playing at Chelsea as well, you don't have that reliability, man. You don't. I don't.
Hell no.
Every time I watch Havertz, bro, very skillful guy, zero output. Man.
Oh, yeah.
How do you, I think it was 2 straight seasons of 6 goals in the Prem, bro.
Yeah.
Getting as many minutes as he gets, it's incredible. Maybe you could look on the optimistic side and say that perhaps Graham Potter has found a way to maybe maximize his abilities. But even then, I don't think he's that guy, bro. I don't think he's that guy. Timo Werner, I actually would prefer to start in this position because I just think there's a bit more of a chance of a surprise with him. I think there's a bit more of a chance that with the right guys behind him, maybe we can get something special out of Timo and just goes on this crazy run. With Havertz, I see a little bit more limitation. It's so disappointing that these are the options because we were spoiled, bro. We were spoiled growing up watching this German team and watching Miroslav Klose break the World Cup goal-scoring record and be the perfect, prototypical striker for Germany.
Yeah, man.
That was the ultimate option for them to have, and if they had someone even just slightly close to that right now, it'd be the cherry on top of what is already a really good German squad, but they don't.
Yeah, it gets interesting because if you think about just straight form, you take out context. You think about form, age, skill. I easily could see Flick going with Havertz up top and Musiala right underneath him, right? But if you include context, you think about the players that are around these central attacking positions, then maybe you don't pick the most skillful players, right? Maybe you go with Werner because maybe he can link up with Gnabry and Sané better. And I easily could see that. He provides more mobility and he can make deeper runs than I think Havertz could. And he could make smarter runs too. Maybe they get the same output, which sucks. But that's the thing. Flick has to make that decision. And then Muller, my only point against Muller is that he is getting up there in age, right? He doesn't have the same dynamicism that he used to have. And I do think that actually could play a negative effect at this World Cup. So it gets very interesting because Flick has a decision to make. Does he play his most skillful players? Does he play a combination of experience and youthfulness? I do think he has very big decisions to make. And ultimately, and we'll get to it, I think it will make or break this German side as far as how deep they go in this World Cup.
All right, so let's do predictions now. Now that we've analyzed this team, looked through the whole squad, there's so much exciting things about this German team. I kind of teased it earlier when we did our Spain analysis. I said that I don't see Spain getting top of the group. And that's because I see Germany topping this group, finding their form in this tournament. Sané just scoring goals, Werner maybe getting on fire, and most certainly, for sure, Gnabry cooking things up in the kitchen. For sure. I think that Germany-Spain game is going to be incredible to watch. I think that'll dictate a lot of the pace and the way these players are going to feel going into the knockout stages for either one of those teams. But if I have to pick a winner of the group, it's going to be Germany. I see them going to the round of 16, and I think that no matter who they face, they'll have enough talent to make it to the quarterfinals. So I have them winning one knockout game. And then in the quarterfinals, the way I see the tournament playing out is I actually have Brazil facing off against Germany. And I see Brazil finally getting over the hump of the past 20 years. And this German side coming short, but maybe not because of lack in quality, but more so lack of experience. This is a young team that we pointed out with a few veteran options, but I think when I look at this German team holistically, when I see the whole scope of the German squad, I think this is going to be a squad that's going to be incredible come 2026. And that'll be their tournament to fully shine. I don't think 2022 is their time, and that's where I have their journey ending.
I'll keep mine a little short and sweet, but I'll also keep it with the theme of comparing them to Spain. I think Spain are further along in their development after their failure in 2014. I think Germany are a very good team, but I do think there are just too many questions for Flick to answer. And I don't think he'll be able to solve every single puzzle come World Cup time. He's going to have a lot of things to figure out. This is a very talented squad, but as you just perfectly said, I think they'll be perfectly primed for 2026. For 2022, I'm actually not even going to put dark horse as their label. I see this team going no further than quarters, but I actually could see them exiting the round of 16 because that round of 16 pair between Group E and Group F is going to be fucking ridiculous. It could be potentially Croatia, Morocco, Canada, or Belgium against either Germany or Spain. We're going to be treated with that round of 16. Regardless of who ends up finishing in first or second, Germany's going to have a hell of a task in round of 16. And even then, I don't know if they have the weapons, the experience, or the overall talent to even get out of that round of 16 matchup, regardless of who it ends up being. So I actually could see Germany exit round of 16. They're going no further than quarters. And that's how I see Germany doing in 2022, man.
And that is Germany, folks. Let us know, how far do you think this German team will go in the World Cup? Quarterfinal appearance, round of 16, second or first place in Group E. Please let us know. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to keep updated with us as we continue releasing these deep dives. And man, you'll see us soon. Don't you worry. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Peace.